Hey folks, Kevin here. Well, it's April 17th, 2019, and today I thought I'd introduce a series, Hugelkultur. The way I approach Hugelkultur is different than the way most videos that you've seen on YouTube or read about in the forums. And it's context specific because of the property that we have here. But I thought I'd go through some of the experiences and share with you the deconstruction and construction of the different hugelkultur systems that I've been using for several years now. I'm a big fan of hugelkultur pits, and I'm actually working on one today, so I'll show that as well. So what is hugelkultur? Well, the most simplistic way of describing what hugelkultur is, it's taking dirt or soil and covering up woody material. Often people will take limbs, large logs, all the way down to small limbs, build up create a pile that may be 2 foot to 6 foot tall, varying widths, and cover it with dirt from the area that they dug it out. Sometimes they'll partially dig down into the earth to dig out some of the topsoil that's there. Start putting the logs along in a linear path or in a curved path in that trench type area that they've dug out, digging out the topsoil, and then use that topsoil as well as other topsoil to cover it. They may use other materials such as wood chips and straw and all. And often they'll be planting nitrogen fixers into the soil initially, and some other species. Some people will use it for growing their annuals. Many people will use them for growing their perennials as well. And there's an example of, I think, what would be considered a traditional hugelkultur mound that I created. Now it's down to just about 2.5 feet off the ground, and I've had it up close to 6 foot, about 5.5 foot, about this high on me. And I built it up over several years' time, and I've added compost to it. I've added lots of wood chips to it, and every two years or so I have to add more small branches to it and add more wood chips or more compost to it. I'll say that that system is a very productive system. I've grown everything from sweet potatoes to Irish potatoes to sunchokes to mulberry trees, starting different trees in there, and bushes as well. What else have we grown over there? Some alliums as well. A whole variety of things we've tried growing. And in another hugelkultur ground, we were successful growing strawberries, somewhat successful growing strawberries on that one. And we've grown sea berries, sea buckthorns in different spots in the property and all. But I'm no longer going to be creating these mounds. And the main reason is it's just so hard. It takes up so much of my time rebuilding the structures. And they can be absolutely beautiful and perfect. So if you've got a small piece of land that you're just going to put a couple of relatively short, less than 100 foot long hugelkultur beds on like that, then it's easy enough to maintain and manage from the various wastes that you get around your property, and can gradually rebuild it over time. And the size of the property that we have here, and we're a small family. Thea works full time, and I'm the one doing all the full labor around here. I find that rebuilding these systems over and over again, it takes so much time and so much energy that it's no longer desirable, especially once we get some of the bindweed or the quack grass or some of the various long tap-rooted weeds into the system. Then it gets out of control. We've had poison ivy get into some of the systems, and I have these multiple ones like this around the property. So I'm no longer doing that. And in other videos I've posted, and I'll put a link in the upper right hand corner, I've posted a video about the hugelkultur pit system that we use, where I've made some drawings and all trying to describe what it is. And that's our largest hugelkultur system, multiple acres, one big hugelkultur subterranean system. which has had so many benefits. So all the trees, instead of what I would do years ago, I'd take the trees, take all the limbs, make big burning piles, and be burning all, maybe it may take 2 years to do all the burning from clearing several acres at a time. And all those wonderful nutrients, all that carbon would go up into the atmosphere instead of going back into building soil, which was contributing to the climate change and certainly not helping out in building soil. So after having the experience of having the hugelkultur pit being so successful at retaining water, sequestering carbon, enriching the soil up there, creating a wonderful growing medium from taking a gravel bed and turning it into a really beautiful, rich resource, well, that made all the difference in the world. Now, in addition to doing the hugelkultur pit below the surface, I'm using a back to Eden, using lots and lots of wood chips on the surface of it, as well as other composted materials. So we're creating we're shaping the contour of the property in the growing spaces that I want to grow on by sequestering carbon, building these large hugelkultur pits, and then putting like a back to Eden, mulching it very, very thickly on the surface of it, and that bony gravel material that we have turns into some really decent soil. Now, up in the original hugelkultur pit area, we've got beautiful swales and mounds as well. And the ponds up there stay completely full, even during our worst droughts, which this, where the neighbors around have had troubles maintaining water in their wells. So that hugelkultur pit really has helped out with retaining water as well. So I hope to make this all into a great big series of deconstructing some of these hugelkultur mounds, some of the mounds that also have depths of digging down 3 feet deep as well, and showing you what's happened over the years and giving sort of a time lapse of it. As I get the opportunity, I'm going to go back to those systems and explain what my observations have been, what has been successful, and what I think of as a pain, and I don't want to do it any longer that way. So pretty much we're sticking to the pit system and coating it with the back to Eden wood chips. So we'll go over to an area where I just dug a small pit, and there's a pit I probably captured on video a few days ago that I just finished filling up as well. We'll go over to those sites. Okay, so I'm down here. This is going to be eventually another living fence line. There's a few places where I'll be sharing how we're creating the living fences by creating the hugelkultur pits down below. And the hugelkultur pits can be anywhere from 6 feet deep down to 11 feet deep, because that's what Bumblebee, the mini excavator, can dig. And I realize not everybody has equipment like this, but at least introducing this concept may get people to think about, well, when I rent a piece of equipment, because these pieces of equipment are really easy to learn to operate, and or you hire someone to come in, instead of clear cutting and burning the area, you may find another potential resource in a technique to be utilized. So what I did last night was I came down here. Now this is along a fence wall, which there's lots of stones, really bony fence wall here. And so what I did do was, of course, a lot of the stones that were used to create this fence were they had fallen down off the wall and sunk way down deep in the soil, and gradually the soil has built up because this is a downward slope of the property over here. So I'm building up this side of the property, and along the fence line here between myself and the property line, what I'm going to be doing is planting some productive living fence so that we can have it be harvestable year after year as time goes on. So I've created a trench here that's about 6 feet deep. So I'm going to be taking down a couple of our willow bushes that were 1 gallon bushes, which I took one down the other day, and I'll go over and show you where that's located right now in that pit. But I've got 2 to try and take down today and get into this pit area here, and then I'll be using, and that'll be the larger material as well as the smaller material. Now that the root mass of that I'll be planting along the property line, because that's a great nesting area for many of the birds, and I'm doing it real early in the spring before they get their nests built in these, so I'm not disrupting the birds as well. So I'm going to be harvesting the materials from that big bush behind Bumblebee there, and there's another one over on another spot in the property as well. So I'll show you an area that what it looks like after I fill up the hole. Okay, that brush pile that you see behind me, below that pile there's a hole that I dug out that's about 11 to 12 foot deep as my mini excavator could go. I actually stuck the blade down in the hole pretty far. And I will try to include some GoPro footage of me excavating this hole and taking 2 large tree trunks. One of the trees I actually shot a video and posted it with Bumblebee taking down a very large maple tree. So there's 2 equally large stumps that I put down into this hole, which are probably the diameter of the root mass is probably around 8 feet or 9 feet. And so I stuck those down into the hole first, and then started taking lots and lots of logs and materials, putting that down in there, small branches, and then lots of the willow material on top of this as well. So we're capturing all of those vital nutrients, not just the carbon that's there, but in all of these small limbs, there's lots and lots of nutrients that are captured in these woody materials. So it's really enriching the soil. The slope of the land comes down this way towards the outer side of the fence and going down on my neighbor's property. So what I'm doing is building up a little bit of a brim on this side of the property so I can interrupt the nutrients flow, so we get no more non-point sources of pollution. I don't want to lose any of those valuable nutrients off the property. So creating this whole system with a living fence that can benefit from all the nutrients as they make their way down the side of the property as well. So there'll be some GoPro footage of me digging this hole. I'm not sure what else I may show in the video. It would probably get too long. But this is sort of the kickoff video for a video series that will take me a couple of years to show, you know, what has worked, what hasn't worked, and why I think it didn't work or why I think it did work, and the components as well. And I'll be building more and more video footage as I create more and more of these systems. So if you have any comments or questions, please leave them below. This is context specific, so this won't work in everybody's place. But there's lots of large pieces of property where people are doing significant clearing, and I think this could offset some of the harmful emissions that we put into the atmosphere, increase greening of the planet, capture more nutrients to go in the soil, and retain more water on our properties as well. So thanks so much for watching, folks, and have a great day. Bye-bye now.